influence of the forces of evil in the human society seems to be increasing exponentially lately.
Their most effective weapon, it seems, is to infiltrate various human organizations and social structures and then use them for propagation of their own ways and ideas amongst us. And as a result of all this, the people themselves are becoming more and more colored with these parasitic qualities to the point that when you look at the actions of certain individuals, you start really wondering, is he really human? So obviously the parasites are very cunning and very skillful in such type of infiltration. So do you think they have spared the so-called alternative media? No, they have not forgotten to infiltrate the alternative media. They are top skilled in lying and cheating, and they know the most important trick of the liars, which is to wrap up your lies with 99% truth around them, and in this way, the gullible people will swallow the lie. So this video will focus on how much of the alternative media is rotten, infiltrated with parasitic agenda, and then what to do about this sad situation, where, for example, to find real news coverage. A perfect example for infiltrated alternative reporter is Alex Jones. While he shakes in anger and claims to venomously oppose the sources of evil whom he calls globalists, in reality he suggests solutions to the people
Which
actually support this mission of the globalists, and he is nothing else but a subdivision of the corrupted mainstream media. Alex Jones won the trust of the oppressed masses with his often very detailed and professional and actually good reports on how the parasites are enslaving us in terms of the exact tactic and techniques they use. And that is why people will trust him much more in terms of the remedies he suggests for this situation. If they hear the same solution from BBC, they will not believe it. But if Alex Jones proposes a given solution, even if it is the same as the one suggested by BBC, they will believe him because they will automatically assume that he is sincerely interested in helping mankind. If he had any intention to help mankind, he would propose solutions for the problem which actually work, instead of wasting people's time with things that obviously don't work, like organizing them on demonstrations, shouting with loudspeakers. This is pretty much like the madmen who talk to themselves very loudly and with great excitement while nobody listens. Or let's say, I've heard Alex Jones say that we the people are winning because we are awakening, and an example of this awakening and fighting back is that the people in Europe, like in Greece and UK, are expressing their unapproval of the European Union. Certainly, the European Union is a highly toxic, parasitic organization, but let's see what these allegedly awakened people, for example, in Greece, did about it. They gifted all the important assets of the country, even postal system, the Acropolis, their ports, everything was given as a free gift to the international monetary organizations and banks and all that, all this group of friends of the European Union. And the people decided to remain in this lovely European Union. Does it look like awakened people to you? Ah, yes, most of the people in Greece, if you ask them, they're absolutely against the European Union and hate it, but they cannot get themselves together to do anything about it. This doesn't look like awakened people to me, it looks like a bunch of jellyfishes. Now let's see the other awakened party of Alex Jones in UK. Now here the situation is indeed 1% better than in Greece because the people got themselves together and managed to vote for exiting the European Union. Well, we'll see what's the result anyway, even if their vote, which the authorities said is only advisory, produces such an exit, will this make any difference in the agenda of the parasites? Not at all. They have been ruling England successfully even without the European Union and will do so even if Britain exits the European Union without any problem. Yes, such an exit of the European Union may slightly slow down with a fraction of a percentage the overall plan of how they organize this prison planet. Alex Jones has very nice description for our planet. Yes, the management will change. They will restructure a few units and that may take a short amount of time. But it will not even come close to derailing their devious plans because the main issue of the actual shackles that hold us enslaved in such a way will not be addressed. On higher level, these shackles are demoralizing of the society, twisting our ideas of everything. And on a lower level, for example, the issue of centrally controlled money. Even if the European Union evaporates overnight, we will be still fully controlled by the big corporations and the big banks as long as we agree to use their fake money. And for those who don't believe that they are winning, he has another option, and that's to feel helpless, oppressed, full of hatred, and even desire for violent revenge. But one thing you will never hear from Alex Jones, and by chance that happens to be the only way in which we can defend ourselves from the parasitic invasion. Couple of times group meditation experiments showed that just by sitting and meditating, a group of people would considerably lower the crime rate in entire area. So a couple of experiments were conducted, the crime levels were recorded. So apparently it works. If Alex Jones really had some compassion for humanity and wanted to help, he, with his influence, because millions are watching him, he could have organized and inspired not just meditation, group meditations, because not everybody can sit and meditate in the way this female is shown on the photograph. No, there are other simpler forms, for example, group prayers with great intensity that can also bend the course of the events that are happening around us. So instead of proposing something constructive, Alex Jones and many others like him are putting the gullible people on the train of hatred, which is an extremely dangerous one. For example, let's take again the wave of crimes committed by foreign immigrants in Europe. Just a couple of decades ago, those people who are now committing the crimes were very simple folks, like farmers or having some simple, honest profession. But they allowed their minds to be twisted with the help of this hatred, desire to revenge for some injustice. But because it was all done in a very Machiavellian way, now these people are attacking actually innocent women.
On the streets, although initially the people who put the seed of hatred in revenge in their hearts presented it in a clever way. You see those people in the white nations, their banks, they keep you poor here while they live in luxury on your back. And in the minds of the simple farmers, being poisoned with hatred and desire for revenge, eventually ended up attacking, in Europe, simple people on the streets. They would never even get a chance to attack one of those masterminds who engineered the full system of dishonest money that keeps entire nations in poverty. In the same way, if you are put on the train of hatred, even by the so-called alternative media, eventually you will end up doing injustice to some group of people, who will also then decide to revenge your group of people, and in this way the entire earth will turn into a battlefield, brothers killing each other, and above all that, the parasitic chiefs from their top secure locations will just watch and laugh at us.
The approaches that I suggest are meditation and then pressuring the local social institutions as described in the first episode of the Will Angels Come to Rescue Humanity. And the way it will work is actually that the fruit of the meditation efforts will be that the social pressure will start giving actual results in the legislative system, for example. Currently, the fattest parasitic plan implementation institutions, they're legally above the law system of any country. These are international agreements. They cannot be prosecuted. They cannot be stopped. But if laws change, then their plans could be derailed, at least to some extent, with peaceful social measures. Now, this may sound as a too mild solution for the dire situation that we're in, but it is better to do something small but effective rather than think and talk big and do nothing, because the hatred path not only doesn't help us, but it also works against us. So we should be very careful not to slip and fall into the trap of this hatred, which could be difficult, especially when it is implied and suggested to us by sources that we trust, alternative media sources, which has already earned our trust because of exposing the exact technicalities by which we're enslaved. What is the use of knowing all the details of what our prison guards has prepared, what kind of nasty stuff they have in mind for us? Alex Jones focuses exclusively on such details. He presents them in a very emotional way. And then these details become the main focus of meditation of some people. And then these people perpetuate their own enslavement because that is how things were. You acquire the qualities of the object of your meditation. So, this is the practical way in which our own energy is being sucked out and channeled into demonic projects. We entertain demonic thoughts. We also depict demonic symbols on our own bodies. And then we believe some media source just because it is labeled as alternative. And we feel good because they're telling us, you are the resistance. What kind of resistance are you? What are you resisting? You have the symbols of the adversary on your own body. When you go to a battle, do you put on your uniform the symbols of your own army or the symbols of the enemy?
Very interesting phenomena is that some alternative media people can support the parasitic agenda even without being aware of it.
Just because they repeat whatever they have heard from others.
And because they will describe the events around the way they appear to them, and that will be somewhat distorted through this prism of their own belief system, which in some cases may be very limited, even if the person has only sincere intentions. Because since childhood we grew up with parasitically flavored movies in parasitically controlled environment, so those ideas stuck to us. So in other words, you may listen to news reported by an alternative media journalist, and he might be absolutely pure in his intentions and not bribed by any party, but still you may get the wrong story unless the person who is reporting is not already at least relatively deprogrammed. So if we decide to live in the reality from the Hollywood movies in that belief system, then according to it, the humanity is in total hopeless situation by now. Because when there is danger to the human race within that belief system, the answer is always organize some team that goes and punches some supposedly bad people, and there is some shooting, and then that is the solution. Well, this type of resistance is not an option simply because the military powers of all countries are subservient to the governments who are subservient to the parasitic forces, so that's not an option. Then what about peaceful legal prosecution? That is also not an option because the upper levels of those who manage the demoralization and controlled demolition of the human society and human race, those are already by law above the laws which apply for common people. And even the laws for common people and the entire justice system is so corrupted that it has turned useless in terms of prosecuting big scale crimes against humanity. And no, the majority of people will not wake up because they don't want to wake up. And the proof is that here in Europe, it's already rapes, no entry zones, where the crime is so high that even the police doesn't dare to enter, their cars get burned. And still people prefer to just swallow it up and continue. It's their choice, we can't force them. So, for those who believe in the Hollywood reality, we are in a hopeless situation. But the point is, there are other realities. For example, in the past, our forefathers viewed the world as an absolutely magical for us creation where you can influence the events around with your intentions and the power of your thoughts. And the group meditation experiments that I mentioned earlier, and details of which you can find online, they prove that our forefathers did not believe in such things because they were stupid, but because they were using human capabilities that the people who live in the Hollywood reality prefer not to use. So, as I mentioned in the beginning, most of the famous names and faces in the alternative media work for the parasitic forces. And maybe some of you may find this somewhat exaggerated, just because you hear them with such a passion speaking against the forces of evil. Is it really possible that these people are on the other side? Yes, it is. It is absolutely possible, just they're directed at certain moments to provide misleading information. As I told you, the best lie is wrapped with 99% of lies. So they want these people to sincerely report, their bosses on the evil side. They want such reporters to be very sincere and believe in what they're doing so that they have influence of the people, they win the trust of the people. And those bosses who usually bribe them indirectly will interfere only at certain important for them moments when it's time to insert that 1% of lie. For example, months ago I was approached by somebody who told me, "Oh, I want to contribute very generously and continuously, so because you're doing such a great work, you must live comfortably and you can devote all your time because your work is very important," etc. So he suggested something like that, and then he connected with me again and suggested me that I get somewhat affiliated and connected with some other research group. I looked at that one and it was dodgy. Actually, he first asked me, "What do you think of them?" I told them why exactly they look dodgy. And then he said, "Oh yeah, but you have to know them and you will understand that they are very nice and friendly people." Yeah, that's a different thing. Anybody can be friendly. Anyhow, I didn't show eagerness to get affiliated to that project, and then he changed his mind and did not give me his generous donations. In the same way, the big names in the alternative media may also have a very generous sponsor who doesn't really much intervene in their work, but sometimes he will just beg them, "Now I belong to this and this party, and you see, now we won the elections. Trump is our man. Can you please speak in his favor?" It's a personal request. And so the alternative fellow may fall into the trap, may bite, or he may not. If he doesn't agree after such subtle suggestions, if he's very important, they may go even further, like threatening, or even step 3, unpleasant visits at home. For example, like Mike Adams from Natural News, whom I used to recommend very highly. So I have no clue what happened and if anything happened at all, but he was reporting really well, and then few times he published articles that he was personally threatened, and then at some point, literally overnight, he completely changed his views. The day before, he was saying, for example, in relation to the US elections, that we should never trust any of the candidates who have been conveniently pre-selected for us by main parties, because those parties are rotten from inside. Candidates that they pre-select are always members of some secret societies, and at the end don't do what they promise to the people. They never work in the interest of the American people. So why should we trust them again? And then on the next day, he started publishing articles implying that Mr. Trump has intention to save America from the official establishment. Well, that's a bit odd, given that the establishment put him over there in that position. But not everything is lost, not yet. Still, you find some sincere people, especially on internet, who will tell you the truth if you can appreciate it. But the important thing to understand here is that this may not continue for a very long time, the way things are going, because by far most of the people don't have any intention to wake up, they will swallow anything, and this makes it likely in the very near future things to go much worse in terms of central control of everything, and that will include the information, the news you receive. Just in a couple of short years, we might be left with only two choices. One, the traditional big mass media, and second, alternative, also rotten media, which is actually a branch of the first one. The channels or the websites of those who were really sincere could be just shut down for security reasons, or they may have some accident happen to them in life. And most of the people will not even figure out that this has happened because it will be gradual and because we will still have alternative media which will talk against the globalists But again, about key points, like for example, transition to cashless society, well, they may advise you to do that, for security reasons against the terrorists, they will tell you. So if you don't want to find yourself turned into a zombie robot of the devils against your will, now is the time when you still have the opportunity to develop qualities and skills and strength of your spirit that will allow you in difficult situations to see the truth for yourself, even when there is nobody around to tell you, because all the herd is going towards the slaughterhouse, the zombification center or facility. Because that's ultimately the plan of these evil forces, with the use of ideology, fraud, and technology to turn us into very intelligent and remotely controlled robots. In the part 3 of the video series called Will the Angels Come to Rescue Mankind from Evil, I will review in detail what can one do about all this in very practical everyday terms. And in that episode I will explain again why, despite all this gloomy picture, I believe in a bright future for humanity. And till then, watch out what kind of reality do you create for yourself. Because although we are not aware of the magical powers of our thoughts and even words, others are aware of it and they are misusing it. For example, millions have made it a daily practice in meditation to mention in their speech after every few syllables items that are usually found floating in the sewage. And since they are so desperately calling for them, here they are coming. Here you can make yourself familiar with the details. Delicious and tastes like beef, colored with red food coloring to give it a pleasant tone. Now combine this piece of information with the fact that the institutions that are responsible for food control usually do nothing and are paid and sold by the big corporations. Then also pay attention that most of the stuff nowadays is imported from China, where nobody knows how is it made. And I don't know what we are eating. I personally prefer to graze in my own garden than to buy anything in the shop. But the main point in this example is that whatever you call for with your words and intentions, it will come.